Good luck, duelists. And as always, trust to the heart of the cards. It's time to duel!
Unfortunately, Zen is mostly relying on those go second cards that we were mentioning, both mind control going first and not what you want to see. So this part of Desire will be the deciding factor for this game. He really needs to pick up some of the engine cards, and luckily for him, Chai did not open a single Entrop. So
let's see where Kozak is going. It's off these top two cards. Take a breath, take a look.
And there is a sign in mining there, so that's definitely what he wanted to see. Now the next step is slowly check those 10 banished cards for a Gazelle. And it's the first card, wow!
Oh, it's so dangerous running Cloud of Desires when you only have one copy of your key card.
They are both playing Desires throughout the previous future matches. He's never really let them down. Now it did, and this is gonna hurt a lot. Gazelle, just as a reminder, is at 1 for this event, so he's completely cut off from that, which is...
Wow, that's brutal.
Brutal,
That's brutal to be starting off the finals just like that.
It's tough. I guess you have to start leaning in on, maybe on Jack Jaguar.
Yeah, it's...
just keep getting monsters on the field. It's not an easy one, though.
It seems like he's passed. Yeah, I was about to say is...
One good thing, though, is that, you know, he only needs one monster because he can use his opponents.
Yeah, with
exactly.
the double mind control there.
And the really cool interaction in the mirror match is Ita. So if your opponent, or you can prevent your opponent from getting back the Gazelle with the Wolf, then you can steal their own Gazelle and use it as your own. So that's still an option for Koki. And I think he's gonna really rely on that because his hand is not looking anywhere good at the moment if Chai doesn't overextend here. So
would you say with these two pieces of interaction that Koki is pretty safe from being OTK'd here?
Should be, but it really depends on what Chai has. And at the moment, I think his hand also relies a lot on the pot of Desire. Yeah. So they overall have very similar hands. But it is quite different. So at least he will be able to fin through his deck. And something that we have seen previously from Chai was playing around the Phantasme from their opponents when they didn't really have much going on. So let's see. Again, one Desires, who is going to have the better Desires? It really might just come down to this for this game one.
Another cool thing with Will of the Salamander right there, summoning from hand.
Let's see, this draws us super important.
Do we see the double the Gazelle taken out of the game?
Unfortunately, we are not able to see those cards. But
just tilt those cards slightly further forward?
Yeah.
Never mind.
Would have been interesting to see them, but the draws are pretty solid, so Foxy and Spinny both being useful in this spot.
Besides, a little mystery is good for the soul. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of built on it, really, with trap cards, face downs, that sort of thing.
Ever since day one.
Okay, and he just attacks with both. Again, it's quite possible that he will just hand here, maybe on Abyss Dweller, which is an even better way to play around the Phantasme. Let's see what he thinks is the optimal choice here.
It's just a tough set of cards.
He does just pass. So as he did in... Oh, and a third mind control is picked up.
Wow.
Well, those are definitely getting played this turn.
Yeah, now he has a chance, of course.
Might be nice to take those two monsters and keep them stuck under an Xyz monster of your own.
It's definitely interesting. He has quite a few options. The Twin Twister isn't that great in this matchup. Luckily for him, since Chai was playing around Banelinks, there isn't any protection at the moment. And the Sign of Money comes down. Right now, the only interaction from Chai is the Diddy Crow. Again, very relevant that he decided to main deck Threeple. I think he is the only one in the entire field that decided to go for this, and it is paying out greatly. So
he's got his hand on the Jack Jaguar there. Is that or Foxy? running some numbers in his head.
Yeah, because at the moment he's quite short of another level 3, since Chia didn't really commit to it, so even the Ita wouldn't get him there, so maybe he could go for a Foxy and try to get a Spinny or something else to get going.
He's got to have a high concentration of Salamangreat cards left in his deck at this point, because he hasn't seen any so far. Mind Control number 1 is activated, taking Chia's Jack Jaguar.
So from here, it also depends if he might have banished the Sanctuary as well, honestly. That would hurt even more, so...
Man, hitting 2 1-ofs with 1 Desires. Not
Well,
good odds on that.
That's a risky run when you're running very slim 1-offs with Pot of Desires in your deck.
Takes control of both of the Salamangreat monsters.
Mind Control, a great card in last year's finals as well.
It was.
And I think we can safely assume that both of these guys might have watched it, and in particular, Chia who was playing it, might have picked up on Bowden idea to run Mind Controls. So,
Interesting. So summons Foxy, no effect.
and just that sucks with it, yeah.
Main phase 2.
It is possible that he just wants to use it to clear the will. In that case, it is much better to use it that way. Because he knows his opponent also doesn't have too much going on at the moment, so it is... And luckily the Sanctuary wasn't banished. It would have been really too rough if he lost 2 of his best cards.
So that is...
Yeah, Foxy come down, but the DD Crow here is gonna hurt, so...
Gets tagged.
If it was any other Anthrop here, you can see the difference. Since Foxy activates in the graveyard, but the effect to destroy a spell and trap doesn't activate in a new chain, you cannot negate it with like Effect Veiler or Impermanence.
Right.
And usually you see those Anthrops. Here, for example, if Chia had that, he couldn't negate the Foxy, but the DD Crow paying off.
He is going to get to keep those Salamangreats out of Chia's graveyard, though, as he Xyz summons Baguska, the
Yes.
terribly tired taker.
Billy's favorite number, as he mentioned on stream previously, number 41, so...
Just take a rest, take a timeout.
Baguska has kind of a debilitating effect while it's in defense mode, switching things to defense and negating their effects. Link monsters, of course, can't be in defense position as they have no defense points. And so
Okay.
they're safe.
So now a Cosmic Cyclone is picked up, and you can see one of the differences between his deck and the other ones. He is maining the Fusion of Fire, which is quite an impactful tool in the mirror match. And at the moment, though, since you don't usually see the number 41 on the field, it's not going to be as good as usual, because it would prevent the Violet Chimera and it would put it in defense position. So
Yeah, that's a card that's been cut from a lot of extra decks, at least in North America. So always a little surprised by it.
definitely, I think it depends heavily on the fact if you're running multiple targets, for example, for Super Polymerization, that takes away a slot because of Starving Venom, usually, so you're less inclined to play it because Abyss Dweller is usually considered the better one, but he's playing both, so he thought the card was relevant enough in the mirror match and in other matchups as well.
Just taking some time in the tank to think this play through.
Sets a monster face down. Not
Okay.
something you really see in Salamangreat, and it's generally a sign that things have not gone to plan.
Absolutely. The thing is, number 41 is actually very annoying to deal with because right now you can see his only very good play would have been a Stalio, but Stalio, of course, would have been negated. So, and finally, an engine card is picked up by Kogi. He gets the circle. Just as a reminder, if anyone just tuned in, there is no Gazelle for Koki. It was banished by the stars, so he has to try and play and navigate this game differently. So.
Now, the downside to Baguska is that you can't always, press your advantage in this case. So Chiaz kind of has a weaker setup here with just a face-down monster, and maybe it really is a weaker position, or maybe he's just trying to get that Baguska switch to attack position so that its effect stops.
I think a material also has to be detached, which means that he will get back one of his Salamangreat monster. But
On the standby phase.
yeah, which I think it is
being
what
pointed
the
out.
judges are catching up on right now. So he gives back the Jaguar to his opponent, but he's able to use even the third mind control right now. This is wild, yeah.
So he knows what that face down monster is. Looks like it is a Falco.
It should be spinny, maybe? I think it was the spinny side, yeah. So the spinny is there. It's flipped, not in defense position, of course, but we are skipping the number 41,
Cusco
putting
effect, yes.
it into defense. So it will be interesting to see how he goes for this. So he might want to push some damage, and the Ita is a possibility, which I think we could see soon. Because you can also switch the number 41 to attack position, of course, to push some damage. So that's what he's going for. Because now if you get back the Jaguar from the graveyard and you normal summon your own copy of Jaguar, then this is a lot of damage and it would be enough to actually win the game. So I think Koki is in a really good spot to take this first duel. So he is still in the line, so
Double Jack Jaguar with Hita and Baguska.
this is more than enough. It's
36 plus 50, 54, 50.
74, yeah,
It's a
100
lot.
pretty much. So
It's
it
enough.
should be enough. Let's see if, yeah, they
Yeah,
do
that's gonna be
realize
it.
it. So Koki wins game one. Nice applause from the crowd, and
Does it without the Gazelle as well.
And without
Yeah.
really getting a whole lot of
this
Salamander
is
cards.
really. If you had any doubts about the favorite for our colleagues and Japanese friends, now you don't doubt him. Like he managed to activate a desire, banish his only copy of Gazelle, and still found a way to win, drawing triple mind control going first. So it is not something you see every day, and very, very well played by him.
That
So
was a clunky hand that he turned into some real action there. That was great play by Kosaka.
yes,
That's part of why you have to practice a lot. Is you have to get those cards and not to be like, yeah, no, I can't do anything. You have to figure out what you can do, not even if it's not what you want to do.
Absolutely. And now we're going to go to the side decks where things do get a little different. So both, as we were saying, we're maining a lot of cards already for the mirror match, but they do add a few. What was the most interesting for me, especially in Ching deck, is that his main deck is very focused on multiple copies of cards. His side deck, almost all of one-offs, which is something you don't see every day. Billy agreed with me earlier on that it is something that he likes, just to see different copies of cards. But for example, he decided to only play one super polymerization when that card is very impactful in this matchup. So maybe
Yeah.
that decision will go back to him. So
I guess he already has one Fusion of Fire, which is kind of like a second copy for the mirror
absolutely,
match.
yeah.
But
On
a lot of times for the one-offs, one reason you might do it is if you have 6 different cards that can interact with something, but they all have you can only use this effect once per turn written on them. So you might need a bunch of similar effects because if you drew multiple copies of a single card, you wouldn't be able to play them both in one turn. But if you draw 2 copies of 2 different cards, like say an Ash Blossom and a Ghost Ogre, you could use them both, and it improves your overall hand quality.
It's interesting. If you have this situation where you have lots of one-offs in your side deck, would you leave the Pot of Desires in, or do you start thinking about taking it out?
I mean, I think you take into consideration the fact that you have part of desires when you build a side deck. So since they're not engine cards, you're not really afraid to banish the one-offs. It is probably just similar to what Jerome was saying. If you play multiple copies of the same card with restrictions and you have draw effects, you're more likely to draw multiples and then they are not that good. When you have all these one-offs, you can actually use it very safely and get the best of both worlds, we can say. And that's what's going to happen. He's probably putting in his Imperial Order, Super Polymerization, and Ghost Bell, which are all one-offs he has in his side decks for different purposes. So,
If you're watching at home, one thing to think about when you're using Pot of Desires is you got to think about whether you're trying to draw one specific card or one card out of a group of cards. If it's a group of cards, then you can almost treat all of them as whatever single card you're looking for. And that alters the math. It makes it safer to run a card like Pot of Desires.
Yeah, otherwise you end up going the safer route of just play free of everything.
That's sometimes a possibility. In this case, of course, they have to respect the restrictions. And in this deck, it is more of a fact of there are that many engine cars, you cannot really go above it. So if you already have your combos going on, you keep the desires, you thin your deck for the Gazelle and the Sanctuary, and then you hope to draw traps or end traps with it. Otherwise, if you did not have engine cars, then it would have been any other cars. Why not risk it and just try and get into your combos? And it is working out because both of them are playing desires right now.
Strong card from release.
Just getting the last minute shuffle before we jump into game 2 of this best of 3 for the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships 2019.
There is also a world in which Ching actually picks the second to caught his opponent off guard, but it would need to be very brave to do so, and it is something that I do like because first of all they don't expect it and they side cards that are gonna be useless going first, so let's see if he decides to go for that line.
Much more balanced hand on Kosaka's side this time around.
He does have the Gazelle, so no more risks of getting that away.
Now it's safe to play the desires.
Absolutely. And he really is good at drawing his mind controls. He has 2 more copies this game, so 5 mind controls just in basically 10 or 15 minutes is, you gotta feel sick if you're Ching. So
This time, though, if you're going second, it might be a little better than last time.
absolutely. So very good hand on both sides, I gotta admit. So it seems like he is starting. So
Thinking very carefully about what's his normal summon going to be.
yeah, he has a few options. The thing is, when you have Foxy like this, you always wonder, should I use the effect? And I think in his case, it might be the correct decision just because to have less downside with the Desires, he is actually maining multiple copies of all of the Salamangreat Traps cards, which makes the Foxy significantly more consistent. Let's see.
There it is. There's Foxy. Asking, are you going to activate that?
Yeah. He doesn't activate it. It is not surprising because it allows you. The only concern I had is that if you have the will, you do not need this. But if you do not have another extender, then you don't want to use the effect just because you're going to use the one in graveyard once you get to the Sanctuary. So
Link summons for Salamangreat Baelinks. Link materials for that are just 1 level 4 lower Cyberse monster. So a vast majority of the Salamangreats work with it. Or other Cyberse monsters like Lady Debug.
Yeah, very, very good card. A perfect opener.
So now, as we were saying, he's probably just going to activate either the Sanctuary on the will, enabling the Foxy to discard either Falco or Spinny and just start playing it out. Unfortunately, there is an impermanence in Kogi's hand, which will most likely be used on the Stalio when he tries to get the Gazelle out of the deck. So
Will of Salamangreat is activated. Gives you that extra summon once per turn, or you can cash it in for a bunch of summons all at once if you have a reincarnated Link monster. Discard Spinny to pull back Foxy from the graveyard.
And Spinny comes back up. And quick Exy summon.
And just as expected, the Stalio comes down, and I would be very surprised if the impermanence wasn't used here. So definitely thinking about it, and
Thinking about what to do as Chain Link 2 here. Rush Stalio lets you summon a Salamangreat from your deck in defense position. Also has an ability when it's sent to the graveyard as material
Yes,
for a
so-
Salamangreat.
just as expected, the impermanence come down. It means that Ching will not really be able to extend his plays that much this turn. So he's cut off from Gazelle, and that means it is almost impossible for him to get to an Abyss Dweller or to the Roar, for example. Luckily, he does have the Rage, which is more, as we were saying, due to the fact that he is playing a lot of traps, even Solemn Strike, which is something that we have not seen in a lot of these decks.
I kind of like the heavier traps with like the Solemns, more Rage,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. A lot of times I feel like Salamangreat really is more of a controlling deck than an aggressive deck.
It
But,
is.
you know, what it really is something that switches almost seamlessly between the two. It's part of why its longevity is so great.
Yeah, you can definitely switch, and if you build a deck is where you have a lot of traps, but you do put the one copy of Fusion of Fire, you're basically building a very good control deck, but a deck that really punishes you, because every time you don't have the correct interaction, then it can easily OTK you. So it is a very good deck, and no surprise that it was essentially the most represented decks for all of the past months ever since it was released. So
In North America, at least, it was about 25% of the field at all of the major events.
yeah.
Next closest deck was only around 12.
And here we go for the reincarnation Sunlight Wolf.
Mandatory here because of course he needs for the rage in his hand, and he's gonna use the second effect of the will, which is the rarest one, I'd say. You usually first turn at least use the other one, but it can tribute itself to check the link rating of a Salamangreat you control, and you can special summon in defense position monsters up to the rating. But here it makes sense because, as you're seeing, it didn't have another Salamangreat spell and trap in the graveyard, so by doing this, he puts more monsters on the field, and he gets the will back. So pretty good opening here, even through the impermanence.
It basically cost you nothing in that case. Got rid of the will, got the will back.
Absolutely. So a Foxy is picked up. It's a good start, honestly. His hand is looking quite good, and the only card he has to play around is really the Rage. That's sad. And the Mind Control is a very good starting point to do that.
Checks, take a look in there. There is a Balinx that can be banished to protect Salamangreat monsters, or cards rather, from being destroyed. That Salamangreat Rage down there does present a bit of a problem.
How will Kosaka navigate this turn?
There are a few options. One of the main differences is that unfortunately he's not siding or remaining the Fusion of Fire, because I'm pretty sure if he was, there was actually a very good chance he could have pushed an upper game even with this combination of cards. Here, as expected, he's just testing the water. He doesn't know about the Rage, so he's using it to see if maybe it could have been a Roar, and then you're gonna force it there. The Rage, luckily for Ching, has a second effect, so it is not completely useless at the moment, but he will be forced to tribute Salamangreat from hand or field to destroy just one card, though. So
Kosaka summons Foxy, does not activate its effect. And we'll see if Chia goes ahead and uses the Rage here to stop a Link summon. Nope. Lets it go through, and Balinx hits the field.
yeah, it would have been too risky, and unfortunately not having Anthrops at his disposal means that he's just gonna pray that his opponent hand isn't that great, but it is much better than the previous game one. So if the previous game was enough to win, then this could just be even better. So let's see what Ching is gonna try and stay alive.
He's hovering that Rage. There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
He does go for it,
Keeps his monsters on field, sends one from his hand.
and he destroys his own Sunlight Wolf. The reason being, once the Balinx hits the field, he knows that as soon as that would have been used for Link Summon, the Rage was completely useless, so he was kind of forced to use it there.
And now or never kind of situation, right?
Absolutely. So now Koki is still in a perfect spot because he has Design and Mining, which is just the cherry on top, I would say, of this end.
And he knows that the only card in his opponent's hand is the not
The
the
will.
Sanctuary, the Will.
Yes, because now he decided to use the one from the end, which is also interesting because I do get it. He gets the extra value of setting back the Rage, as we were saying, but at the same time, you're giving your opponent free information, and if they now know that there are no more interaction, you're just free to do whatever you want. So maybe I would have liked him to use a Spinny or a Foxy for it and just play mind games with
And you
Koki.
can see the mental math right there.
Absolutely.
He's trying to figure out what's the biggest number I can hang on him.
it could be a pretty good number. And even if it wasn't, it can go for the Abyss Dweller after clearing the field. And we do know how good Salamangreat is just recycling their resources, but if they're cut off from the graveyard, not so much, because they're not famous for having a lot of cards in their hand.
They get hosed pretty hard by that Abyss Dweller. So
Absolutely.
let's see how Kozaka decides to push his hand onto the table this turn.
Bistro is a real MVP this entire season, against multiple decks even. Orchist, for example, had a real bad time.
Yes.
This
and-
Dweller has been good since it's been printed. Like, it's just pretty much always been in the back of people's minds.
Yes, it was defining during Mermill format, and still probably one of the best XYZs at the moment. So.
All right, Foxy comes back from the graveyard and uses its ability to take out Sanctuary, and that's a one of. So you're not getting another one of those unless you use an ability to bring it back.
Which is never what you want to do, really, with such a card. Yeah. So just as expected, now he can go for the Stalio. He should be getting a level 4 out of it. So since, yeah,
Got
nothing
Jack
too
Jaguar.
surprising here.
Now, Spinny making a reappearance.
I'm gonna consider his plays quite a lot. I don't think he has enough at this point to just attack for game. It doesn't seem likely since there is a Bane Links as well to protect it.
Yes.
But it does have a lot of resources, so he has the ability to go for It Leo and just get rid of the card. He can do a lot, so... Okay, he's thinking about this Falco. He could have also just bounced back to Gazelle for next turn, so... A lot of different options, and I'm sure he will find out the perfect outcome. Thankfully, just as a reminder, there is no time limit for this final. Of course, you still have to play at a reasonable pace, but at least you're not as stressed by
And the
having
match
to...
procedure and having to calculate how you're going to navigate
Yes.
those last few turns.
So, the Ita comes down, okay. So he decides to pull the trigger, and
Checks the graveyard, sees Sunlight Wolves. And he's asking about the face down card there. Probably, how was that card set? Was it set by an effect, etc.?
yeah, he still has potentially the ability to go, I don't know, for It Leo. The order is slightly concerning, but it shouldn't make a word of a difference. Like, if he goes for It Leo and Dweller, potentially getting even the Roar face down, then it's a lot, so...
Takes Sunlight Wolf.
Seems like he's considering entering the battle phase, but...
Even
Jack
more
Jag,
math
yeah.
going on there.
He still has a lot. He still has both Falco and Jack Jaguar available in the graveyard, so it doesn't seem like this... Okay, he does enter the battle phase,
Attacks
and just
Foxy.
gonna try and force out the Balings, yeah.
Spinny. And I don't know that he necessarily needs to use the Balings here. He's still got plenty of life
Yeah.
points.
It is fair enough. He does know that the Roar is there, so it still plays around a few cards like Ghost Ogre and Rage, so I wouldn't hate if he just kept, and that's what he's doing, yeah, makes sense.
He gets 1850 and 2000 in there.
But now, I mean, a very convincing line of play from Koki. He still has the Memphis Shoe to keep pushing and clearing everything Ching has, and he knows he has the full information at the moment of what's in his hand and face down, which gotta be a great feeling, honestly.
Yeah, what sort of top decks are you going to be looking for if you're Chia right now?
Probably the one super polymerization, really. I think it is among the best ones, but it is not even, might not just be enough regardless, because as you can see, he's getting back to Gazelle for next turn, and he's most likely gonna go for an Abyss Dweller later on, so that means that even if you do clear a significant portion of the board, then you have to deal with a lot, so...
Like comes another Sunlight Wolf there.
Yeah.
And gets back Roar of his own.
Very cool play here, since he took his opponent's Sunlight Wolf there with Ita. He saves the reincarnation aspect and just makes a summon like wolf. That way it is considered still a summon with another one. So nice line of play, and we will see an Abyss Dweller soon.
We got Jack Jaguar up next.
And he gets back the Ita, yeah.
Hito, okay.
Like when you are able to get back Aida, you feel good. Like it means that you're so ahead that it gotta be very nice. And as expected, Leo and Abyss Dweller, you just wanna be sure you get back the rage into the deck. And here, the really good thing about this play is that super polymerization is not even an option anymore. He played around it by just linking away and then XY and summoning an XYZ. So
Getting that Salamandra monster off the field.
yes, so tough spot, honestly. Koki playing very well and at his best. Can Xing still draw into something? It seems like very difficult here for him.
Salamangreat Raccoon, huh?
Okay, Raccoon is the one you don't see often. It allows you to protect your Salamangreats from battle, but it is not what you want to see it right now. Is he gonna negate the will here? It's really coming down to the wire. You should really hold to your seat because this is the last place you're gonna see for this year World Championship.
Takes one more look through there.
Pass turn, and this is just a formality. You can see him shaking his head. Koki is just a few attacks away from becoming the 2019 World Champion for the TCG.
Come on, Koki.
No effect.
No effect.
Just getting
He
everything
lines
on
it
the
up.
board.
He
One
goes
hit,
for
two hit,
attacks.
3 hit, 4
And
hit, and World
shake.
Champion has been declared.
We have-
Kosaka is the new World Champion.
Japan takes 2 World Champions this year. They won the Duel Links, they won here again. Wow. New.
Back with a vengeance after last year not having a finalist for Japan, and now they're taking 2 tournaments down. That's
You
crazy.
can never underestimate Japan, and they just proved it once more why they have the most World Championship wins of all time, and one more champion for them. Amazing.
Our world champion, Koki Kosaka from Japan. Well done. Congratulations. How are you feeling?
めちゃめちゃ嬉しいです。ありがとうございます。I feel great. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, everybody. A big round of applause.